This 2015 Nebraska Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame inductee spent over 5 decades in broadcasting, with 52 years in Lincoln alone. He has earned numerous awards and achievements, was considered the voice of high school and Nebraska Wesleyan sports, and an overall good person. Introducing Chuck Stevens.
He's going to shoot for three. Good! Holy moly, Chad Ideas drills his third three. 61-58. 28 seconds to go as the Gusties bring up the basketball.
You were the voice of Lincoln High School athletics for 35 years.
He is known for the signature call, Holy Moly, and that came into play and became his signature call, I think, after the double overtime Class B boys basketball championship game in 1989, where Wahoo beat Lincoln Pius X, and that, I believe, was coined as the Devaney Roar, if I'm not mistaken.
16 years of high school basketball and football and Nebraska Wesleyan University basketball. The thing that always comes to mind are all our great road trips. We had a bunch of road trips. And
I noticed on his typewriter he had typed a Dean Martin quote that said, quote, "If you drink, don't drive, don't even putt." And from that point on, I knew he had a love of golf and he had a sense of humor.
I will always be reminded of the time I was wrapping up a newscast, probably around 8 a.m. You walked into the studio to do the sports and a clock fell on your head. I guess I remember that because it happened live on the air and I provided a little play-by-play.
And no matter what his title, sports director, sales executive, part of the KFOR morning show, or his true passion, broadcasting high school football and basketball games, he is truly a professional.
Chuck was just unparalleled in terms of work ethic. Nobody worked harder than Chuck Stevens did.
We even had white elephant gifts for Christmas parties, and someone created a cup with Chuck's head on it, and that was the gift to get.
He would be right up there at the top of the list of my favorite colleagues of all time.
If you wanted one person to name as an ambassador for the broadcasting industry to the rest of the world, it would be Chuck Stevens.
He has been in the broadcast industry over 50 years, and I'm so glad that he's being recognized. Congratulations, Chuck.
I'm Chuck Stevens, a retired sportscaster who's been in the business for a little over 50 years. Actually started full-time as a senior in high school back in my old hometown, Sterling, Colorado. After graduation, went up to the Black Hills and worked for a little radio station that was new in Hot Springs, KOBH, the Call of the Black Hills. Stayed there for about 6 months and then had an opportunity to move into Rapid City and do a little radio, and that was also my first introduction to doing some TV. From there, then I got a call one day for a position at KOLN TV. They flew me down. By the time I got off the plane, my ears were just sealed shut because it wasn't pressurized. That made going through an audition at KOLN TV interesting because I felt at all times that maybe I was shouting, but apparently it went all right because they hired me. A regular sportscaster had to be gone for doing games on radio for KLIN, and so that led to me doing some sports while he was gone. Then I got the itch to go back to radio and went to KLIN for 5 years.
Chuck Stevens was the morning man on KLIN radio when I got my first news job in January of 1969. All I remember about that morning is Chuck Stevens with a big grin, reaching out his hand and saying, "Welcome," and taking about 3/4 of the nervousness away from me when I walked into the studio for the first time.
I jumped to KLMS. During that 10-year span, had not much to do with sports at all. I'd kind of lost track of it, in fact. At the tail end, they were going through some format change and wanted to do more middle of the road and added some sports, and so back I came. I switched then over to KFOR in 1982, and that's when everything changed as far as sports for me. The sports aspect was something I was just kind of growing into. The opportunity that KFOR afforded me with all the games is really where everything from my sports standpoint happened. By the time I actually left KFOR and retired, we were doing easily around 100 games a year. Did a lot of interview things with coaches from Bob Devaney through Tom Osborne, what I would call maybe the icon coaches in Lincoln. After you do it a while, you become attached to it. I love the sport, working with the coaches. I had a really great partner for 16 years, Ward Jacobson. He and I did a whole bunch of games together, not only high school wise, but for Nebraska Wesleyan.
Chuck and I had to get to San Francisco for a Wesleyan game in the West Regional in 1989, and we flew the day of the game, which was the big mistake. And as we open the doors of the gym, we can hear the buzzer sounding, and they're getting ready to introduce the lineups, and we haven't even set up anything yet. So Chuck says, I can remember him saying it distinctly, he says, we can still get this game on the air, we might miss the pregame, but we're not gonna miss any of the game. We get out all our gear, and then we find out that the power is way, way in the back, like 100 feet to the back where we have to plug in. So we open up the bag where the extension cord is, and it's this tangled, jumbled mess like you cannot believe. By the time we got plugged in and set up, game was about 10 minutes gone. We go all that way through all of that trouble, and it's one extension cord. But Chuck, congratulations on this honor. It's terrific and well-deserved. I'm very proud of you, and I was happy to have an association with you for all those years at KFOR.
And then when Ward left and moved up to Minnesota, my son Kevin, he started out doing some stat work and didn't talk. I decided finally at one point, you know, Kevin, I said, I'm gonna put a headset on you, and let's just see where it goes.
You know, I cherish the time that we had together calling those games. Well, mainly you calling games. I would just kind of chime in. You know, a lot of people appreciated what you did for those 35 years. Again, I just want to say congratulations to you. This is a great award and truly well deserved by you.
This award means an awful lot in that it came through the Nebraska Broadcasters Association. I certainly want to thank them for that, and well, you'll never know. It just means an awful lot to me.